I can't stop thinking about WWE. I can't stop thinking about HHH. I can't stop thinking about Raw and SmackDown. Damn it, CJAX. Another video when you literally said yesterday that Raw was mid. Now you're doing this. Okay, let's hear it.
We deserve better.
You are absolutely right. We deserve Maya May back to AEW. Pay her, Tony. Millions of dollars.
Okay, and that's the simple fact about it. Now, obviously, last night's episode of Raw, like I said, was mid. However, mid is an improvement from garbage that we've been getting for months and months on SmackDown and Raw, and we are likely going to get garbage for the foreseeable future. The low effort, the fact that Triple H just doesn't maximize the storytelling capabilities, the roster we currently have. He doesn't have an idea of how to make people into superstars like Vince McMahon had the idea on how to make people into superstars. And later on in the video, I'm going to discuss actual legitimate scenarios, right? How I would book and create certain storylines for a lot of different wrestlers that are currently in certain stories and different, levels inside of the company, and how I would make them great, how I would book them going forward so we can actually have good and engaging episodes of Raw and SmackDown week to week, and stories to build upon, creative narratives, and just a different perspective on the current roster of people that we already have. Like, if you incorporate NXT and the main roster, this roster as a whole is not garbage like I've been saying it is. I'll be honest with you. It's not garbage necessarily, but it is bad, I guess you could say. But the reason why it's bad is because Triple H is making them look that bad. There should be zero reason that, aside from people who are already established, like your Cena's, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, CM Punk, people like that, you should have people outside of them that are actual, main level superstars that can draw people to come out to these events, that can draw people to show up on shows, that can get millions of views on their YouTube segments, etc. Right? Trick Williams there's no reason why Trick Williams is on NXT still. I know he just won the TNA World title, which is pretty interesting, pretty cool. But be real for a second. Why in the world is Trick Williams still in NXT? He is better than, for example, Jey Uso is the World Heavyweight Champion, so he's the second highest on the pecking order behind John Cena in the championship realm of WWE. There is no reason that Trick Williams is worse than Jey Uso in storyline. How? He's better, he's bigger, he's better in the ring, he's basically equal on the mic at this point because Jey Uso's that bad. He's probably better than Jey on the mic. Trick Williams is over because of his gimmick of the whoop that trick, I'm saying? Oh yeah, man. I'm saying? The key has all of that.
Yeah, he is, but the problem is, the only reason why he's over and he's good on the mic is because he's not in the main roster. If he was in the main roster, he wouldn't be able to cut great promos because of the writing and the scripting. So he will have to be off script in order for him to do so. Otherwise, he's going to fail at promos. LA Knight still got it. But the thing is, will Trick Williams got it? We'll keep it. You know what I'm saying? Because he got it now because he's still in NXT. But if he comes to the main roster, obviously, he will have to figure out what he's going to do next. Now, some say he should go to SmackDown, but I think that if he's going to go to SmackDown, some people say he should team up with, Carmelo Hayes, but I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? I would like for Trick Williams to go after Jacob too, but I don't know. See, the thing is, will he be able to? It wouldn't be fair for Carmelo Hayes to not go after that. But then again, I don't know. As much as we want Trick and Carmelo to team up, don't we want to see Trick go solo with? Because I don't know if people are going to keep screaming, whoop that Trick if he come in the main roster. We'll have to see. But other than that, right now, I can't see him at the main roster unless for sure they're going to do right by him. It's bad enough that Maya May is coming to WWE. It's bad enough. So you got to be careful of how you sign these people and bring these people over. Because if they do come, then are they going to remain the same that they was in NXT? I don't know about that. Like I said, man, SmackDown is stacked. So I don't know how Trick Williams is going to be able to come to SmackDown when Raw is completely losing competitors and superstars. So I don't know, man. I'm nervous for Trick because Bobby recommended that he should just go to TNA, which he will because he got the belt. But still, It's going to be interesting how Trick is going to be able to come to the main roster, but I'm scared that if he come, that all these great promos and great matches he have will not be the same. I don't know, man. I mean, thing is, we don't trust Hunter, and we don't trust Road Dogg because G-Man says that Road Dogg is the creative and over at SmackDown. And if he is, then we don't trust him either. Okay? So, yeah, I just think right now they just don't have anything planned for him in the main roster. But maybe when the drafts come, he'll get there. But will he remain the same? Otherwise, if he remain a jobber, now what? See? So, we'll see. But right now, he's in a good position. He's a TNA champion. Let him stay that way, So, and that's all I got to say about that. Let's continue.
LA Knight. LA Knight is good at literally everything. He's amazingly entertaining, and he's constantly getting better, whether it's on the mic or in the ring. Why is he not already a world champion? You get me? Dr. Libations, you know what I'm saying? As bad as his WWE Championship reign was, which was partly due to Triple H and his bad booking, you cannot tell me if you stop having Cody Rhodes cut these basic, I respect you, I love you, Kevin Owens, I had respect for you, I needed you. Like, what are you doing? Have Cody Rhodes actually cut a legitimate promo and be him, Like Cody Rhodes, when he was cutting promos versus Cena a couple times in the build to Mania this year, he actually had a couple really good promos. I'm like, how in the world do you get from that to him cutting these garbage basic promos? If you let Cody actually wrestle consistently, you let him cut promos that he actually would cut, and you actually let him, maximize his potential, Cody Rhodes could genuinely be a bigger star than he already is, even with this bad booking. You get what I mean? So it's as simple as that. Braun Breaker, instead of him being a mindless hive mind bot working for Seth Rollins to help him get a world title that Braun Breaker can easily get, he beat Jey Uso last year. Last night he just no-sold 3 super kicks from the world champion. Why in the world would Braun Breaker be helping Seth Rollins win a belt that Braun Breaker himself can win? He just won the IC belt twice last year, and you're telling me he can't win a world title? Rollins hasn't had a world title in a year. We have to be honest with ourselves for a second here and realize that Braun Breaker's potential should not be hampered so that a 40-year-old Seth Rollins can go win a world title. The storyline is stupid and it sucks, and I've been, bashed it and explained it and critiqued it last night, but that's not the point. Even in the women's division, Rhea Ripley, you cannot tell me that they are maximizing Rhea Ripley's potential. I'm sorry. She's wrestled 12 or 13 matches on televised matches in the last 500 days. How is that maximizing the talent? This is my brutality. I'm gonna take back my title that never lost. Yeah. No. You're not doing the best that you possibly can. Jada Parker, Sol Ruka, all these people who are chilling in NXT putting on banger matches, and you know what I'm saying? Jada Parker's really good on the mic. She has charisma. Sol Ruka is obviously phenomenal in the ring. We just saw what she did with Kalani Jordan. That Soul Snatcher was absolutely amazing. You get what I mean? You have all these people just chilling around doing nothing. Logan Paul, in my opinion, is probably the best or one of the best heels in the company by far, because the company has no legitimate heels that go out there and only attract heat. Legitimate heat. You know what I'm saying? Like go away heat. You get what I'm saying? They have no legitimate good heels to do that except for Logan Paul at this point.
So you're telling me that Charlotte Flair don't get no heat? You're telling me that Dom still don't get no heat? You're telling me that Nia Jax don't get no heat?
And he should be a bona fide main eventer and probably a world champion at some point this year or next year. And like I said, this is not incorporating people like Roman, Cena, Orton, Punk, who are going to be there and already are established draws and stars. These are all people who you should be building into actual mega stars. These people should be top of the line guys and girls that when the top stars like Roman and Cena aren't on the show, we should still be equally or around equally as interested as it would be if they were there. You get me? You have to book these people correctly. In what world are any of the people I just named, Logan Paul, Rhea Ripley, Jada Parker, Sol Ruka, Braun Breaker, Dr. Libations, Trick Williams, LA Knight, in what world are these people not bona fide superstar / main event talents that are drawing people? That is all on the booking. Be real with yourself. What talents do they not have? Well, let me stop. You know what I'm saying? Dr. Libations is really not that good enough to be selling out shows. Let's be real with ourselves. But he can at least be a good upper carder or a good mid carder. The title reigns. Io Sky's World Championship reign has been awful. A banger triple threat at Mania, don't get me wrong. But it's like we haven't even seen her since. It's like we really haven't even seen her on the Raws. And it feels like she's not even there. How can your world heavyweight champion in the women's division feel like she's not even there? Not even featured. Rhea Ripley barely showing up during her world championship reign and having, 1 or 2 televised matches before she lost it to Io. Cody Rhodes' WWE Championship reign, 10 matches in 380 days? One of the worst world title reigns of all time? The worst WWE Championship reign in modern history, because Roman's been holding it for like 5 years straight, But still, even with Gunther's World Championship reign, that reign was garbage. You could have had him do feuds with a Jay earlier on in the reign and then revisit it for Mania. You could have had AJ Styles be in there. You could have had Drew McIntyre play a role. You could have had Finn Balor be a legitimate challenger and be in the feud. You could have had multiple different, mid-card to upper-card guys that could have made feuds and good stories with Gunther. You had Randy Orton there. You had, you could have used him for more, etc. But for some reason, his world title reign was absolutely atrocious. Jey Uso's current world title reign, he's had one successful title defense in like over 40 days since he's had the belt. What is this? You know what I'm saying? This is embarrassing, bro. Make a good championship reign. The tag teams. What's his name? The New Day. You know what I'm saying? How in the world did the New Day have that amazing heel turn segment with Big E back in last year, like late last year, and you fast forward from that, and now all of a sudden, the New Day gets featured like maybe once a month on Raw? How? The U.S. title is now regulated to having I love you solo segments every single week. This isn't good. You're not maximizing what you have. If you just simply maximize what you had, you would be able to make consistently at least solid or good episodes of Raw and SmackDown. Shorten SmackDown to 2 hours, keep Raw at 2.5 hours, and you would be able to, if you actually put effort in every segment and maximized your younger stars, you would be able to make a good episode of Raw and SmackDown at least 2 to 3 times a month minimum. It's unbelievable, man, at this point. Triple H cannot maximize this roster, and it's getting very embarrassing. If you think about it, if you missed every single Raw and SmackDown this year and only watched the PLEs and the Saturday Night main events, what would you have missed? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's with multiple stars showing up multiple times throughout the year. You still wouldn't have missed anything. That shows me that the actual storytelling, the capability of the wrestlers as performers, and the actual ability of the booker Triple H to make these stories creative, make these stories engaging is not there. He's not doing the best that he can possibly do, and we're seeing that. And that is just a very sad sight to see, because if he did maximize the talent, we would be getting very good content, and we would actually be able to develop along the talents that we already have. Now, I want to discuss some of the things that I think would work for certain talents and certain storylines to make things creative and give them that jolt again and give them some excitement, okay? So I'm going to go on different people on the roster, different storylines that are, I'm just going to go over, just a few, and I'm going to talk about how they can, shift these storylines, how Triple H can fix these storylines and not give us the same garbage every single week. Starting off with Karrion Kross. Obviously, Karrion Kross has now, actually gotten over in an extent because the crowd actually likes this guy now. Now, obviously, Karrion Kross does not do anything on Raw at all. He hasn't been doing anything for a very long time. However, I think that now that you have him doing this new gimmick and he's now lost his mind, you know what I'm saying? He's telling people backstage, told Sammy, you're not going to win a world title, etc. I think the best thing to do with Karrion Kross would be to put him in situations where he's now finally playing that ominous, darker villainous role. Not just telling people things backstage, but actually engaging in villainy himself. So what should happen is that at the end of a Raw episode or at some point in a Raw episode, whatever, Karrion Kross should have some type of moment at the beginning of the show or earlier on where he's upset with someone or something like that, right? And then later on in the episode, you get to the closer to the end, and Karrion Kross has absolutely destroyed a bunch of people backstage, kind of like the Wyatt Six debut where everyone was knocked out backstage, and it pans to Karrion Kross and Scarlett, and Karrion Kross just kind of stands there and looks at the camera. Then you're actually engaged. You're like, well, what the heck? Karrion Kross has lost it. He's destroying people backstage. What's going on? Then he comes out the following week, and he kind of has a situation where he's complaining about the higher powers like Triple H and all the other people that wouldn't let him get on the show. This sets up Karrion Kross actually being a heel going forward and actually gives him something to do and makes him a credible mid-card guy on Raw. Then you have people like CM Punk. Instead of having him show up to do one GTS a week, maybe you can actually have him cut a legitimate promo or visit Seth Rollins' house, visit Braun Breaker's house, visit Paul Heyman's kids or something like that, and CM Punk can have a situation where he's like, bullying their families or breaking into their cribs or, like Triple H did with Randy Orton back in 2009. You get what I mean? That would be interesting. It would add to the blood feud nature of this. Or you can have a situation where Roman Reigns, for example, is with CM Punk and they go to Seth Rollins' house and they like break stuff in his house. You know what I'm saying? Destroy his house completely. And then it just start making fun of his wife. You know what I'm saying? Crashing his house. It would be sick. And with Roman Reigns as well, he should have a rebuild arc. They should have Roman Reigns go full blown on, kind of losing himself in a sense because he doesn't have Heyman. He doesn't have the bloodline. I guess I don't know why he doesn't have the bloodline. They can easily just team up again. But anyways, let's just act like Roman doesn't have any help, right? Roman Reigns can just go on a rebuild arc where he loses some matches here and there to obviously more credible upper card level guys, not jobbers, but he loses matches, and eventually he has to rebuild to get back to the point where he finally, you know what I'm saying, wins a world title again, whether it be the World Heavyweight Championship or the WWE title, but he finally rebuilds back up to that point and wins the belt, and then ultimately the reign doesn't need to be that long. He just had one for 5 years, but in a year or so, maybe he wins a world title and holds it for like 4 or 5 months and goes full, you know, semi-full time, like Cena's doing, kind of like semi-full time for like 4 or 5 months, and then he's done. You know, that's what you could do, but there's no nuance. Roman Reigns gets pinned by a bunch of jobbers like Seth Rollins and then proceeds to basically move on. You know, I'm not saying Seth Rollins is obviously not a full-blown like undercard jobber, but in terms of the comparison to the two wrestlers, Seth Rollins should have no business pinning Roman Reigns. Be real about it. If you were just champ for 5 years and it took Undertaker, John Cena, and 5 Crossroads to beat you, why are you getting pinned off of 2 curb stomps at Mania? You get what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, and by that logic, Roman Reigns should not be getting pinned by basically anybody. And I mentioned this last week in a video, okay? I also mentioned that John Cena as WWE champion, okay? If you had a situation where because, you know, he's a heel now, he's doing this Hollywood movies, etc., if he was on the set of a movie, right, or he's in his hotel room chilling, you know what I'm saying, in a different country or different state, and you had the person he was feuding with, whether it's Cody Rhodes or whether it's Roman or something, whoever the heck, Orton, whoever the heck he's feuding with at the time, goes to the set or goes to the hotel, it beats the crap out of this dude on set or at the hotel, has a brawl segment there, and they release it as a video and show it on a Raw or SmackDown, that would be awesome. It would fit the Cena narrative and his new story and who he is as a character and actually just, you know, in his life and actually what he's doing in Hollywood, and it would also make the person he's feuding with seem more like a monster, you know what I'm saying, or not like a monster, but more like, you know, more aggressive, you know what I'm saying, make him more interesting, make it cooler, more entertaining.
Okay, I just want to stop the video real quick to let y'all know that Raquel got some new merch for the summer, dog. And it's black and gold. It's going down for real. Now, the price is not right, but hey, the shipping is free with the code on the bottom. So you already know, if you got an extra 40, go ahead and cop this merch. Because this merch is on fire. And this girl is on fire. Raquel is off the scale with this merch, dog. And also the link is going to be on the bio, so you already know. Let's get back to the video. Raquelio!
In LA Knight, let's say LA Knight loses the Money in the Bank, or even before this, he should have been done this. He should be like arguing with the higher-ups like Triple H backstage, being upset that he's not getting a better chance and that he is truly a megastar and he's not being treated as such. And because he's frustrated, he gets in an argument with Nick Aldis or, you know, Triple H or someone, and they end up having to put him in a gauntlet match on SmackDown in order for him to gain a shot at the world title. And there's shenanigans, you know, maybe Nick Aldis turns heel and tries to interfere in the match to cost LA Knight the gauntlet, and LA Knight loses the gauntlet, then has to beat Nick Aldis, and then do another gauntlet maybe, and finally beats that gauntlet and finally gets his right for world title shot for the WWE belt or the world title, and then finally wins the world championship, finally giving him what he's been deserving now for over a year. You get what I mean? This is how you get creative and have interesting segments and interesting stories that make people feel like superstars. You can have Trick Williams come up to the main roster literally next week with the TNA world title. He's acting all, you know, cocky and confident and stuff like that, and he just declares, you know what, I want a Money in the Bank shot. I'm a world champion. I'm at the top of another wrestling promotion and at the top of this promotion. I deserve better. I want a world title shot. So then Trick Williams maybe has to fight LA Knight in a one-on-one for who gets the Money in the Bank shot or who gets the next shot at the world title. Give Trick Williams some shine on the main roster. You get what I'm saying? This is how the creative juices are flowing. You get what I'm saying? This is why you have to include the different talents that you have in different stories. Carmelo Hayes, for example, could have a very similar storyline to that. He uses the Miz to politic his way and get up on the card and starts cheating in matches to finally get some dubs. Jada Parker as well could come up and play that arrogant kind of brash character that she does in NXT, but play that in the mid card on SmackDown maybe and compete for the US title and maybe eventually beat Zelina Vega and elevate herself. We know she's great on the mic. We know she has charisma and she plays a solid character with a unique gimmick.
Hey, you know what? That's a good idea.
How in the world can we not make this work in the mid-card when we have Zelina Vega going out there and getting no reaction? She goes out there and gets no pop, doesn't cut good promos, and on top of that, she doesn't wrestle good matches. She has multiple bad botches. How can someone like Jada Parker or Sol Ruka not come up to the SmackDown or Raw mid-card and elevate it immediately? You get what I mean? Maximize the potential of your people. Rhea Ripley. You mean to tell me that the best thing you can have for Rhea Ripley is for her to come out week after week and talk about, I'm going to take back my title and never lost? Yeah, that's all you got? Really? You don't have any scenario where Rhea Ripley can maybe go get traded to SmackDown or go somewhere else and try and find herself again, do something unique, something cool, feud with Tiffany for the WWE Championship for SummerSlam and then get cost or something, or maybe just straight up lose the match, and Rhea Ripley now has this ongoing story where she can't win the big one. You go from having her, booked to win every match dominantly, maybe now she can't win the big match. This is my brutality. I'm gonna take back my title I never lost. Yeah. No. She lost at Mania. She lost her belt to Io, and now she's losing to Tiffany, and maybe she goes for a mid-card belt and then loses that too. She loses herself and eventually has to work back up to finally earning a good championship reign. That is how you can book Rhea Ripley. Dr. Libations, now that he's back after, he didn't choose to hit Cena at Mania and it cost him the championship, now he starts to lose his character and loses the essence of what makes him a good guy and makes him a face, and maybe over the next year or so, maybe in a year's time, Cody turns heel or becomes an anti-hero where he's part face and part heel. You add layers to his character instead of having this ultimate good guy who does all these corny and garbage promos. You get what I mean? How can you look? These are just basic ideas. These aren't super advanced. These aren't super nuanced. Well, some of them are, but they're not like, this isn't anything impossible to come up with and to execute on a week-to-week basis when you have creative, quote-unquote creative writers and people in the rooms in Triple Friday, the game with Fina. You have all these people backstage. You can't even do storylines at this. This is the bare minimum for what we should be getting. You get me? So I don't understand the logic of any of this stuff, Even someone like Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker could easily turn on Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Let's say Rollins has a world title match with Jay at SummerSlam, a rematch, and he's about to win. And Braun Breaker snoops in while the ref is knocked down or takes a ref bump and spears the crap out of Seth Rollins and decides to take it amongst himself to finally get his own world championship shot. Now Braun Breaker will be elevated by having a feud with Seth Rollins. They'd put on banger matches and hopefully have good promos and segments. And Seth Rollins would realize that he was in the error of his ways. He was a hypocrite. He tried to copy the bad things that he said Roman and Punk were doing, and now he's become the worst version of himself. So now Seth Rollins has a legitimate arc that can build him back up to being a world heavyweight champion, but actually makes sense and works with the storyline, and actually would make him potentially having reconciliation down the line with someone like a Roman or someone like a Punk, because now that they're on their final years, maybe you could have a segment or a moment where Rollins and Roman finally make up after all their differences. Probably like, after they've had like a last man standing match or an I Quit match or something like that. And then after that, maybe you get one more run of Roman and Rollins as tag champs. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that could be something really fun to revisit in the final year or two of their careers. But that's the point. You have to find ways to maximize what you have. You don't have an amazing roster, but you have a roster that can be worked into being a bunch of good mid-card / upper card guys. Sometimes you're not always going to have, in this day and era of wrestling, back then you had 50 stars on every show. You know what I'm saying? 50 Hall of Famers in the locker room. But now you don't really have that. But what you can do is make it so that at the end of the day, you have multiple different genuinely great upper card and mid card guys. That way, when Roman and Cena and Orton and Punk are in the mix, now you have a full on card of great talents across the board so that every storyline can be equally as good, if not great. And that is how you build a balanced roster, a balanced group of stories, and a actual group of stories that will get you excited for 5 to 6 match card PLEs. That is what you should do, and that is how you actually make this show better, because we as fans do deserve better. And so with that being said, that is going to wrap it up as to why I think that we deserve better and why we should and how we can get better. These simple decisions would make SmackDown and Raw better instantly. We would immediately be having a baseline episode of like a 6 or 7 out of 10 minimum on Raw and SmackDown with these changes easily. Wouldn't even be close. Especially if SmackDown goes back to 2 hours and doesn't like dragging the extra hour, this would instantly make these shows a 7 to 8 out of 10 minimum. And then if we got a 5 to 6 match card PLE, maybe I'd actually be hyped anyways, because it's like, well, you know what, dang it, I'll actually take that. I'll take 6 matches if they're all good stories and good talents in it. I'm fine with that. So it is what it is, man. This is the way that I see it, and that's just how it's gonna be. Hopefully they fix things in the future. You get what I mean? With that being said, I thank you guys for watching. Have a phenomenal day. Peace out and one love.
Bro, I ain't gonna lie, this is a good idea. Like Selena Vega versus Jada Parker for the goddamn United States title, bro. That is a fucking good idea. Yo, we gotta set that shit up, bro. We gotta set that up. That would be dope. I ain't gonna lie, that would be dope. I didn't even thought about that. Damn, I gotta catch up. But no, that is a great idea. I would love to see Selena versus Jada Parker. That would be dope. That would be dope. But Yeah, there's some good ideas. I mean, shout out to CJAX. There are some good ideas, but however, I think a great idea will be everybody go watch AEW, show some support, and not show no love to WWE. And the reason why I say that is because obviously it will, with that change, WWE will make change. You get what I'm saying? If we could just take some of that love for WWE and pass it to AEW and NXT, I guarantee you that people will start to file complaints and start to boycott. And then at that point, the people in the back, TKO, will realize that this is not about money. This is about the passion of the sport, and that's wrestling. So, and creativity, because it is acting by the end of the day. So, yeah, if we could do that, I think we'll start to see change. But until then, there will be no change because people are still coming and people are still paying for tickets, you know, which is crazy because all that money you're putting on a ticket, you could have been putting that towards your maintenance on your vehicle, you know. So just saying, you could have done that, but whatever. But get in the comment box. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, share if you're new. And don't forget, tomorrow is AEW Dynamite. So make sure you guys tune into that. And I'll catch y'all in the next video, okay? I'm out.